Hi, I'm John. I'm with Straight Talk Construction. I have over 25 years in the construction field. I was a plumbing technician, a union carpenter, and a home inspector, and I had my own construction business, although it was not huge. I did have a construction business which started out as a handyman business. And one of the reasons I'm sharing that is I'm starting a 4-part series on the handyman business. Just want to share my triumphs and my mistakes and how you can actually start a successful handyman business. One other thing I want to share is that right here, it's not a prop. I'm actually in the process of renovating my house. I bought a house about 4 months ago, and it's a little bit of a fixer-upper. And I just want to take you along on this journey with some of these projects I have going on. I heard a great quote by Zig Ziglar. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So I want to encourage you to get out there and make a change for your future. And whether you're absolutely brand new or switching careers, or if you're trying to figure out if the trades are for you, I believe this channel is for you. Now let's get into it.
Here's an important question to think about right now. Are you building your future, or are you just staying busy so you don't have to think about it? Because when I was in the trades, I thought I was building something, but truly I wasn't. At times I was just filling gaps. And gap filling can quietly turn into years of drift if you're not careful. If nothing changes in your strategy, if you just keep grinding and keep saying yes to whatever comes in, where does that put you at 30? Stronger or just older? I've seen what happens when young guys move strategically. Most aren't lazy, they're just unclear, and unclear decisions cost years. This channel is about thinking long term, so you don't wake up at 30 wishing you moved differently. I was a union carpenter, and when union work was steady, it felt solid. When the work slowed down, pressure built up fast because the bills keep coming in. So I started a handyman business to fill the slow seasons. And at first it felt smart. There was extra money, more control, and I had my own clients. But here's what I didn't realize at the time. I wasn't really building a business. I was reacting to fear of not earning money. When you build something out of fear, you make short-term decisions that hurt long-term growth. The first mistake I made was not having insurance. I told myself it was just temporary. I would just do some small jobs, do some quick fixes, and nothing major. And that's how sometimes we justify risk when we're younger, until something goes wrong. There was a time I was working in a bathroom one day. I thought it was a simple job until I hit a water line and there was an instant spray across the bathroom onto the next wall. Within seconds, the bathroom floor was soaked. Luckily, it was tile flooring and did not damage the bathroom. However, it absolutely flooded the garage below, and I ran around the house frantically looking for the shutoff valve. Finally, I found it behind a dresser of all places in a basement bedroom. It felt like an eternity until I could find that shutoff valve, and every second felt expensive. The garage is where the homeowner stored all of their belongings, but luckily everything was in plastic bins. If it had been cardboard boxes or couches or personal items, it could have been thousands in damage. I was able to shut the water off, put fans on it to dry everything off. I stayed late and dried everything down. In the end, there was no permanent damage, but I was very lucky. I was very lucky because here's the truth. If the flooring warped or if the drywall needed replacing, if belongings were destroyed, I had no insurance and it would have been out of my pocket to repair everything. That one mistake could have wiped me out financially. Insurance isn't about expecting failure. It's about respecting risk. Mistake number 2 was underpricing. I underpriced because I was afraid of not having work. I was afraid of losing work, afraid of hearing no, and afraid of slow weeks and not paying my bills. I remember one flooring job I had. The union had slowed down and bills were tight. And I had a homeowner who asked for a quote for a flooring job, and I knew what I should have charged. I also knew flooring almost always takes longer than expected. There's sometimes subfloor issues, transitions, leveling, trim adjustments, but I got fearful because I needed the work, so I lowered the number of the quote, and I told myself I'd make it work. And the job ended up taking longer than planned, and by the time I finished, I'd barely broken even. There was days of labor, wear and tear on my body. I used gas, tools, and not to mention the mental stress, all for almost nothing, except for a valuable lesson learned. Underpricing can keep you busy, but it also keeps you broke. Mistake number 3 was not tracking numbers. I did have a money ledger. It was a fairly simple system. I had money in on one side and money out on the other, and that was my system. There was no breakdown by job, there was no time tracking, and no clear margins. I remember finishing what felt like a strong week, 4 jobs were done, I had cash in hand, and I felt productive. But then I sat down and actually calculated everything. The gas, materials, extra supply runs, drive time, cleanup time. And when I figured out what I truly made per hour, it just simply was not enough. And that hit hard because I was carrying the risk. I was using my truck, my tools, managing clients, and taking responsibility. And I was earning less than a tradesman deserves. And feeling busy is not the same as being profitable. And numbers tell the truth. And what happened was yet another lesson learned. So here's a deeper issue I learned. I treated the handyman business like temporary money, just something to fill in the gaps, not something to build a business upon or a career upon. And when you treat something as temporary, you don't install structure. You don't tighten systems, you don't build standards, and you don't think long term. And you only think about getting through the month and paying your bills, but months turn into years. When the union slowed down, I scrambled for handyman jobs. I felt relief when the checks cleared. Then I repeated that cycle over and over again. And because you're working hard, it feels honorable. The hard work without direction just wears you out, especially in the trades, because your body is part of the equation. When you're 22, you don't really think about that. At 30, you start noticing it, and at 40, you definitely feel it. If your income only grows when your hours grow, you don't have leverage. Your income is dependent on your labor, and labor has limits. So I learned quite a few lessons, and there's some things I would do differently. One is to get insured immediately, no excuses. I would price for profit, not fear. If someone said no to my quote, fine, I would be fine with that and move on because the right clients respect value. I would also track every job clearly. I would know my hourly rate, I would know my margins, and I would know my costs. There'd be no guessing. And most importantly, I would treat the business like something I planned to own for 10 years. And even if I didn't plan on owning it for 10 years, when you build something like that, it grows. And when you build like it's temporary, it stays small. So let me ask you this question again. Are you building something that protects your future? Or are you stacking busy days and calling it progress? 5 years from now, that answer will be obvious. Make sure it's one you can respect. If this helped you think differently about getting into the trades or starting something on your own, like the video and subscribe. We're building smart from the start.